morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Westminster, I welcome you to our Memorial Day observance. Mr. Charles McEwen, Westminster resident Air Force veteran, will now give the invocation.
Please join me in prayer. Gracious and loving God, we pause this Memorial Day weekend to remember the sacrifice the men and women made that have served our country, both at home and abroad. We especially remember those men and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice to preserve the freedom we enjoy as a nation today. Our freedom is not guaranteed, but only exists because of the men and women who sacrificed so much to wear the uniform of our country. While today is set aside to honor our many veterans who gave their all to defend our freedom, we should not forget the families these servicemen and women left behind who never saw their loved ones again. We continue to ask you to watch over our military members, both home and abroad, as they continue to serve for the freedom of our country. We ask you to bring your healing hand to those many veterans in veterans hospitals, retirement homes, and field hospitals around the world, so that they soon may return to their normal life. Be with the families of veterans here at Westminster that have lost their loved ones during the year. We also ask that be with John as he makes his presentation for us today. All these things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. McEwen. Those who are able may stand as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we remain standing, let us observe a moment of silence in honor of the Westminster veterans we have lost this past year, reflecting on their sacrifice and service to our nation. Please be seated. It is an honor to stand before you today as we gather to observe Memorial Day, a day set aside not for celebration but for remembrance. A day when our nation pauses to reflect on the extraordinary cost of freedom. Here in this community, this day carries a special weight. Many of you have worn the uniform of our country. You have served with courage, endured hardship, and lived lives shaped by duty, sacrifice, and love of country. While today is not officially Veterans Day, it would be impossible to speak about Memorial Day without acknowledging each of you. You understand perhaps more than most what this day truly means. Memorial Day is about those who did not come home, the men and women who answered the call, who stood in harm's way, and who gave their lives so that others might live in freedom. They were sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors. They were ordinary people who did some extraordinary things. For many gathered here, these are not abstract stories, they are personal memories, faces, voices, friendships, forged under circumstances most cannot imagine. You remember the empty spaces left behind. You remember the laughter that no longer echoes, and today we remember with you. We also recognize that sacrifice does not end on the battlefield. It continues in the lives of families and the quiet resilience of those who carry on, and in the enduring bonds among those who serve. That legacy lives on in each of you. Memorial Day calls on all of us to do more than remember. It asks us to reflect on how we live our lives in the light of that sacrifice. Are we worthy of what was given? Are we living with the same sense of purpose, respect, and gratitude that those heroes demonstrated? One of the most powerful ways we honor the fallen is by living well, by caring for one another, by building community, and by preserving the ideals they defended: freedom, dignity, and unity. To the veterans here today, thank you. Thank you for your service. Your service is part of the story we honor today. You stood ready to make the ultimate sacrifice, and in doing so, you became part of a legacy that continues to shape our nation today. We will now watch a brief video presentation. Nope, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yes. To all of us gathered, let us take a moment of quiet reflection, not just as a formality, but as a sincere act of remembrance. Think of those who served and gave everything. Hold them in your hearts and carry their memory forward. And after today, may we continue to honor them, not only with words, but with our actions, our gratitude, and our commitment to one another. Thank you, and may we never forget. Today, we are privileged to have a special talk and presentation by our own resident, John White, an Army veteran and the head of the Westminster Veterans Association. The topic of his talk is Memorial Day through the eyes of a veteran. Over to you, Mr. White.
Good morning. Good morning. See a lot of vests out there. Thank you. Thank you for everyone for coming. I'm John White with the Westminster Veterans, as Chuck just introduced me, and I have the honor of giving a short talk today about Memorial Day, and it will be short. As I see it through my eyes as a veteran, frankly, I'm honored to be up here on this occasion because of the people who have stood here before me. So many of them were genuine heroes, like Admiral McCraven, but I'm just another soldier who did his job, and I was lucky enough to come home. For today, this Memorial Day, let's put aside all politics and analysis about the current and past wars, and look to honor those who showed up, put on a uniform, sacrificed, and did so much for all of us. Are there any Gold Star families out there today? Stand if you're, or raise your hands if you're able. Well, let's remember these families because they made sacrifices none of us can imagine what that feels like. I can only say thank you to those families. Memorial Day is more than just a holiday to begin the summer, have a barbecue, or have a big sale at the mattress store. I think it's often confused with Veterans Day that's in November, which is for all veterans. However, as Chuck pointed out, it's especially for those who didn't make it home. They'll be forever young, lives cut short. They made the sacrifice. When you drive into Washington, D.C., on your left, the first thing you're going to see is a sea of white headstones at Arlington Cemetery. It's a fitting tribute to those who died fighting for our country. Now their names and faces are usually only remembered by their families and a few friends. Over here, it's the missing man table. It's a very special table. Each item on this table has a special meaning. There's a lemon, a half a lemon over there with its bitterness. And a salt symbolizing tears. There's an inverted glass for the missing person who has the inability to make a toast. There's an empty chair. Lastly, there's a lit candle for hope. They are all reminders of those who didn't make it home and the families that are still waiting. I've been reluctant to talk about my service because I was just an ordinary soldier. I'm not a hero, but I knew some. I won't be telling my full story at this time. That's something we'll say for another time. I'm just a Vietnam veteran who was in a combat support role that got caught up in combat. This is where I was, Vietnam. First in Da Nang. Well, so much for the leisure working. Okay. But I was in Da Nang and later in Hue. I got the gift of coming home and growing old, not so much because of my actions in combat, but because of others, some of which gave their lives. I owe my life to those soldiers, faces I never saw, and names I never knew. They are the reason I made it home and got the gift of having a full life, raising a family, and growing old. I think any surviving combat veteran will probably tell you the same thing. You see, it was never my plan to give my life for my country. I thought I'd do my job, do my duty, and somehow make it home. I suspect every soldier would probably tell you the same thing. I joined the Army 2 weeks after they opened up helicopter flight school to high school graduates. I caught the flying bug early as a teenager, and yeah, it's still with me. I never got to be a helicopter pilot, but that's another story for another time. There's a picture of me in basic training at 19 years old. Don't you think the enemy should have been terrified? After basic training, I was assigned to electronics school, and I became a microwave tropospheric scatter technician. We were the communication, excuse me, I've got to wipe my, I can't see. My eyes are watering from my allergies. After basic training, I was assigned to the electronics school. And I learned we were the communication system for Vietnam, or as I like to say, the telephone company. That sounds like a really safe job. I thought I'd lucked out, not being sent to an infantry unit after basic training, but I quickly learned the Signal Corps goes wherever they need communications. So I ended up at one of the biggest air bases and marine bases in Vietnam, Da Nang. And there's a picture of the Da Nang Air Base with the main part being the runways and the airplanes, and then around it, all the support, including communications. It was mostly a safe place, except for the incoming rockets that sometimes rained down on the airfield and on us from the mountain beside the airfield. It eventually got the nickname of Rocket City. We were somewhat safe there because there were constant Marine patrols up on that mountain and all around us. Some of those Marines lost their life defending that air base and us. Again, faces I never saw, names I never knew. In January of 1968, everything in Vietnam changed during what is called the Tet Offensive. The 1968 Tet Offensive is now considered to be the turning point of the entire Vietnam War, much to our surprise that we're there. Because it was a holiday, it was Vietnamese New Year's, we were already on alert just as we were for most holidays, but we really didn't expect anything. Our military intelligence thought if any big attacks were going to happen, it would be here in Da Nang and or at the besieged caisson. Picture of our facility, our communication team at caisson. They were dug in pretty good. You can see the antennas, the dishes. The Battle of Caisson had already been raging for months, and we had lost a full communication team there when an artillery round went into their personnel bunker, and we lost them. A team of volunteers from our company replaced them. With time, I've forgotten their names and their faces. But I remember the sacrifice of the 544th Signal Detachment at Caisson. They're now forever gone, and their names are on the Vietnam Wall. Now, go back with me to Da Nang, where I'm at. After the fighting started during Tet, we were ready for the really big attack. We stayed in our bunkers on the perimeter for 3 days and nights with our machine guns at the ready and waiting for the big attack. It never came. Picture of me with my M60 machine gun. The real action was happening north of us in the old ancient city of Hue. That's H-U-E, Hue. Our 513th Signal Detachment, with its 28 men, were holding out, along with the McV compound, with its approximate 200 men, as the ancient city was being completely overrun. None of us, including the upper brass, realized how really, really bad it was. So they sent in one company of Marines to help out. They didn't know they were facing an enemy of over 10,000. I was transferred to the 513th Signal Detachment as soon as we could get replacements in. Here's a picture of our compound. To give you an idea, the compound was just about the size of the Preston building. And the city of Hue was much like Austin in that a river divided it into the north side and the south side. The Marines had secured the south side of the river, where the McV compound was, and also our signal compound was, about 3 blocks from McV. There's a whole book written about the Battle of Hue. And there's a copy in the library here at Westminster. Unfortunately, the story of our unit did not get included because the author of the book didn't know about it. I've talked to him personally. While the Marines were fighting to secure the south side of the river where we were, a group of Marines tried to break through to our site. 3 of them were killed, and the rest had to turn back. They gave their lives trying to save the men of the 513th Signal Detachment. Again, faces I never saw, names I never knew, and their names are now on the Vietnam Wall. Now back to Wade. When I got to Wade, the battle was still raging on the north side of the river in the ancient citadel. And the aftermath of the battle on the south side of the river was all around us. One of the first things I learned when I got there was that we were the main communications link for the besieged caisson and the link for all points north up to the DMZ. If our site went down, there were no communications. Every call from a soldier's backpack radio went eventually through us. In short, they depended on us for their lives. Our mission was to keep those communications going at all and every cost, including our own lives. "250 American lives were lost during the Battle of Wade, and there were 1,554 wounded. The South Vietnamese Army lost 458 soldiers and 2,700 wounded. Also, there were an estimated 5,800 Vietnamese civilians murdered by the enemy forces. After the Tet Offensive, the fighting continued, off and on for the entire 9 months I was at the site. But we really had a lot of help defending the site. Every night, there were constant patrols outside our perimeters, Marines and South Vietnamese Rangers. And we could see their signal flares, sometimes indicating enemy contact, and we could hear the gunfire. There were men getting killed and wounded out there. And again, they were faces I never saw and names I never knew. For months, we lived in our bunkers with our machine guns mounted in the windows. There's a picture of one of my fellow soldiers named Joe where he saw in our bunker. And that may be my knees and foot in the corner. I don't know. For months, we lived there. Eventually, we got better living accommodations, but that's another story for another time. I'm proud to say, in the entire time I was there, the 9 months, we were only off the air for 22 seconds. In spite of multiple enemy attacks, mostly mortars, some small arms, and we went through a hurricane. I'm also proud of every man I served with on that site. They would have given their lives, including me, to keep those communications going. But that's another story for another time. As I said in the beginning, I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm one of the lucky ones. I made it home. Those who didn't names are now on the Vietnam Wall. Most of them were faces I never saw and names I didn't know. In conclusion, there were wars before mine, and now wars after mine. Mine was Vietnam. They all have one thing in common. Young men and women who showed up, put on a uniform, and did their duty. Some of them lost their lives. I can only say I'm grateful to each and every one of them, and I really wish they could have made it home too.
Thank you, Mr. White, for sharing your service memories with us. We will now watch a brief video presentation.
Today is the day we put aside to remember fallen heroes and to pray that no heroes will ever have to die for us again. Not far from here is the statue of the 3 servicemen, the 3 fighting boys of Vietnam. It too has majesty and more. 3 rough boys walking together, looking ahead with a steady gaze. There's something wounded about them. A kind of resigned toughness, but there's an unexpected tenderness too. At first you don't really notice, but then you see it. The 3 are touching each other as if they're supporting each other, helping each other on. I know that many veterans of Vietnam will gather today, some of them perhaps by the wall, and they're still helping each other on. They were quite a group, the boys of Vietnam. It was often our poor who fought in that war. It was the unpampered boys of the working class who picked up the rifles and went on the march. They learned not to rely on us. They learned to rely on each other. We owe them first a promise that just as they did not forget their missing comrades, neither ever will we.
observe a moment of silence as we listen to taps played by Specialist Cameron Gillen from Camp Mabry. I now once again call upon Westminster resident Air Force veteran Charles McEwen to deliver the benediction.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we commend to your gracious care and keeping all the men and women of our armed forces and their families, both at home and abroad. Defend them day by day with your heavenly grace. As we live here today, may we never forget the tremendous sacrifice they have made for our great country. God bless America. Amen.
All gave some, some gave all. Let us always remember. Thank you for attending this Memorial Day observance. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America. I now request all veterans and their spouse guests to join us in the Windsor Courtyard for a picnic. Renee Harris, a videographer, is going to be attending as well. I'd like to introduce her to you all in the courtyard. Thank you all for your service, and thank you for attending today.
Chuck?
Oh yes, those of you that arrived early, there's new veterans name badges in the back, so pick them up on your way out. Thank you all very much.